Hi, I'm Nadia Combs, Chair of the Hillsborough County School Board. I want to welcome you to Hillsborough County Public Schools. We serve more than 200,000 students. That includes children in preschool through adults in our workforce program.
I'm Henry Shake Washington, the Board Vice Chair. Our district is the 7th largest in America, and our team is made up of more than 24,000 people working at nearly 250 sites across the county.
Our district is diverse and dedicated. Our board meetings are held in our board auditorium on select Tuesdays at 4 p.m. The best way to serve our students and our community is to involve you, the public, in what we do.
You are welcome to email or meet with any of our board members and follow our district on social media. Board meetings are covered live by Hillsborough Schools TV on Spectrum Cable Channel 635 and Frontier Cable Channel 32.
Meetings are also streamed live on our website at hillsboroughschools.org. Closed captioning is provided on all broadcasts, and past meetings are available in our online archive.
We are interested in what the public has to say. We'll include time for audience comments before we address our business items. Our agenda and any supporting materials can be viewed online in advance. They are posted 7 days before each meeting on our website at hillsboroughschools.org.
Our vision is preparing students for life, and that means all students, every day. Todos los estudiantes, todos los días. Thank you for your interest in education. With your help, we're making decisions that shape our community's future.
Testing one.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, let's begin again. Now there's an echo. Okay. The special call board meeting of June 20th, 2023 is called to order. Member Washington will now lead us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Thank you, Member Washington. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda. I have a motion by Member Gray. I have a second by Member Vaughn. Any discussion? Okay. Please vote when your lights appear. Okay, we'll just need a couple of minutes. We are having some technology difficulties.
You need mine?
Okay, let's try again. Please vote when your lights appear.
All right.
I think you got to press one more time, shake.
Shake, you working?
It's not.
No.
Now it's working.
It passes unanimously. Okay, let the record reflect that all board members are present today. Board members, I'd like to go over the format of today's meeting. As a reminder, we're a nonpartisan board who believe that all children can be empowered to learn to succeed, and our decisions will be made with that understanding. To pave the way for efficient and effective agenda statements and or questions, board members will have 5 minutes to speak with 30 seconds for final thoughts. Afterward, the superintendent can respond. If you have further questions, you're asked to get back into the queue. Member Washington will now read the board guidelines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we begin this afternoon meeting, let me quickly review the format of our school board meeting. Please silence all electronic devices. There are speakers in the room behind me that allow board members to hear the meeting upon stepping away from the dais. The meeting can be viewed with closed caption on live webcast on cable TV on video monitors here in the auditorium. It also can be viewed in the closed caption in the online video archives.
Thank you, Member Washington. We will now move on to public comment. The board welcomes comments from citizens and values your input to the board. In order to provide the most comprehensive response to your comments, our staff will follow up with you and will keep our board informed about the responses. Our school board respects the public's right to speak to the board, and we appreciate you taking the time to be here. However, it is requested when you address the board, comments are not directed personally against a board member or staff member, but rather directed at the issues. Any behavior intended to interrupt the orderly conduct of this meeting will not be allowed. Our civility policies in place. When addressing the board, please state your name and speak clearly into the microphone. This afternoon, we have allotted a time limit of 30 minutes of public comment. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Reminder that your 3 minutes start when you begin speaking. When there's 30 seconds left, you'll see a yellow light on the lectern, a red light, and chime will indicate whether your time is up. I will now call up the first 3 speakers. If you'll please line up against the wall.
Well, being number one has always been good in my book, so here I am. My name is Terry Kemple, and I've been through a number of superintendent changes, and I'd like to thank Dr. Hahn for recommending the last process that was used. It stressed objectivity in the selection and almost totally eliminated subjectivity and favoritism. Out of that, we got Superintendent Davis, who successfully navigated Hillsborough County through one of the most turbulent times that I've seen in the 28 years I've been involved with district affairs. I encourage you that if you use the exact same process, you use one like, or if you don't use the exact same process, you use one like it. You can spend time and a lot of money hiring a search firm, but part of the job that you were hired for is selecting a superintendent. You did it successfully a number of years ago, and you could do it now. And as you consider an interim superintendent, you'll probably receive and have already received a massive numbers of recommendations and applications. None of them came from me. Just saying. But my supposition is that you're going to pick somebody from within the district because they're going to be able to step in kind of on the go. The likelihood is that Superintendent Davis is going to make a recommendation. And if he does, he's worked with all of his lieutenants, and I think that he might be the one who could best assess who would be able to step into the, I don't know, you got big feet, but the big shoes that he'll be leaving behind. And Superintendent Davis, on a personal note, it's been a pleasure with working with you. Your focus on doing everything you can to improve our students' education has borne fruit. As I said a moment ago, you faced seemingly impossible problems almost from the first day, and you've done an excellent job of leading Hillsborough County Schools through those challenges. You will be missed.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Stanley Gray, and I won't be long, but I'm in concurrence with an interim superintendent being placed. However, the things that I would like for you all to really consider, accountability. This person, whoever you select, has had extensive amounts of positions where they have been held accountable for things. They've had P&L responsibility, senior leadership, as well as senior administration billets. They also need to be a leader, a true leader, someone who can work with the board because they're being evaluated by the board, but at the same time have the diplomacy to challenge the board. I would also like them to be able to illustrate that they understand what diversity means. And diversity is just not a race or a sexual thing. It's economic, because I think that economics is very important in our district. I personally believe that in many cases that we are not really looking in a very strategic manner of the impact of the lower socioeconomic people within our county. And the last thing, I would really like them to be able to illustrate that they're a strategic thinker. Again, this may be a personal preference, but whoever this person becomes, they should not sell any property. They should do things that are very innovative, like leasing property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. And if the next two speakers will please line up.
Good evening, esteemed members of the school board. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Horridge Freeman. I come to you today as a fourth-generation native of West Tampa, product of Hillsborough County Public Schools, and mother of two children who also attend school in Hillsborough County. I also represent a group of individuals, concerned citizens who are invested in the success of Hillsborough County schools. My sister, Jeanette Horridge Smith, was slated to speak, but she had to step out, so that might not be possible. In light of Addison Davis's resignation, we would like to reinforce the importance of transparent engagement about the selection process, both for the interim and permanent superintendent. We need a leader who understands the community's needs, values and respects employees and parents, and has a demonstrated record of creating a vision that has been successful at improving educational outcomes for all students, and especially Black and Brown students and students from disadvantaged groups. We envision a leader who relies on evidence-based, data-informed approaches to develop, or in this case, implement a comprehensive plan for existing schools, and someone who will devise tracking mechanisms to follow up with the students who are currently being displaced by recent decisions. Ultimately, we're requesting a transparent process that engages key groups, including parents, staff, and leaders. In the past, from my experience, transparency has been a challenge for this board in particular. And I'm speaking about the 4 emails that I sent and received no response from any of you, except for one person. So that's a challenge, but I think that we can do this the right way together in partnership and collaboration. So I hope that this is an opportunity for us to correct some of the missteps and move forward in a way that's both productive and collaborative. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker, too. And if the final speaker will line up, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Edmonds, and I want to give public comment and feedback on choosing an interim superintendent and a superintendent. Superintendent Davis, I understand you were hired under a more nonpartisan board. We had high hopes that the best interest of students and teachers would continue to be the focus. Unfortunately, we lost some truly nonpartisan seats, and you've had to work with a school board that seems more intent on defying state law and statutes, promoting left-leaning indoctrination of our children, and has little regard for failing schools and budgets. To this current board, I ask and I beg you on behalf of many friends who I have that are teachers and have kids in the public schools here, that you would please work with someone and select someone that can table all this political stuff. Our children deserve better. They don't deserve to be in the crosshairs of political ideology and propaganda. And I agree with the gentleman that spoke. It really is more about socioeconomic. It's not about who someone is attracted to or who someone sleeps with. That stuff belongs out of our schools. It's about doing what is best for our kids at every socioeconomic level. They deserve a board who can lay politics aside and hire a superintendent who is neutral and not out to push even more far-left agendas. I beg you, lay politics aside, do what is best for our children and our teachers, and be transparent like the other ladies spoke of. We need a transparent board and one that's out to work with the superintendent that you hire for the best of the children and the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comment. We will now move to the discussion part of our agenda. 201, appointment of the interim superintendent. Mr. Jim Porter, school board attorney, will highlight this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. The board is here today to appoint an interim superintendent and also to hear a brief report about the process and the timeline that the board will choose to use for the appointment of a permanent superintendent. I want to make it very clear to the board and the public that the decision to hire a superintendent and an interim superintendent is entirely within the realm of the 7 of you. That's it. You make the decision under state law about who to appoint as superintendent and who you will choose as your interim. The process that you use should be transparent, inclusive, and expeditious. And I appreciated some of the public comment. Mr. Kemple mentioned the process that was used 3 years ago, and members Perez, Dr. Hahn, and member Gray will remember that the process itself allowed the board the space needed to make an informed decision. Again, you'll decide the process, and we're going to be bringing back to you options for that. But the process is fresh. I mean, it was only done 3 years ago, and it worked, and it allowed the board, again, your space and your ability to make a decision within that process. There's a timeline a tentative timeline that we would want to bring back to the board, a vote by mid-November for the appointment of a permanent superintendent. That's an ambitious timeline, but it's doable. And it depends on how the board wants to shape the process. We'll be bringing back a more firm timeline in the future. Backing into that date will help determine the timeline for the process itself. The board has a workshop scheduled for next Tuesday, June 27th. That is being canceled because of guidance from the state about the subject matter. So that time will be used for another special called board meeting where we can give you a more solid timeline, a more solid opportunity to discuss the process and other things associated with the transition from the current superintendent to the interim superintendent, and ultimately the process to determine who the permanent superintendent will be. In the meantime, we will begin meeting with you one-on-one to start developing and hearing from you the qualities and the qualifications you want in your next superintendent. Those will be one-on-one meetings with Mr. Gibson, Dr. Whalen, and I, and it's just to hear from the top of your head what you think. And that's the first step in this process. We did that the last time, and it proved to be very effective. The board will determine the qualifications and the qualities that you want in the superintendent. You will certainly receive feedback from many stakeholders, but it's your decision, not only the selection, but the process and the timeline you use. We will bring back options for you to engage a search firm for a reasonable amount of money. If that is what the board wants to do, that is going to be the recommendation, that you do use a search firm. Again, your decision. We're going to be providing options to you. The search firm that's selected will also engage the community. When Mr. Davis was selected, there was a very robust community engagement process with stakeholders, individually focused meetings, and then large town hall meetings. And we hope to replicate a similar process because the feedback that that board received was very helpful in helping the board make a decision. That's the sort of the overview of the process for the long term. Today, you're here to hear from the superintendent about a recommendation for an interim superintendent. Mr. Davis has announced that he's resigning effective July 14th. That means that this board needs to appoint someone to be the interim superintendent until you make a final selection. Doing it today will allow the process to run seamlessly, will allow for a period of transition, and will give the public the knowledge and the security that the district is going to be in safe hands. At this point, that's why we're here today. You're going to hear from the superintendent, and then you can have a motion and a second and debate the decision. He's making a recommendation. It's your choice. He has a duty to make a recommendation. You need to hear from him. You have the right to reject it, but you need to hear from him and then vote. And I'm happy to answer any questions. That was a lot of information. This process will be ongoing. We will be meeting with you individually, and we'll be having many meetings so that you can make a good decision.
Right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Porter. Superintendent Davis?
Yes, ma'am, to the chair, and apologize for my voice in advance. So I'll try to get through this. Thank you, Mr. Porter. Beautiful job. We appreciate unpacking that for everyone. With this said, openly, any one of my cabinet members have the ability and skill set to lead this district and to step in as an interim role. However, I understand right now that this board and this community needs someone that has a great relationship with each of you and also a great relationship with our employees and also this community and really has a heart for children. It is my recommendation to recommend Van Ayers as the interim superintendent. This Van Ayers is a product of Hillsborough County. He's worked closely with this board continuously over the last 3 years that I've been in this position as superintendent. He has attended, Mort, Lockhart, Oak Grove, Ben Hill, Jefferson, and then transitioned to the school district stayed in the school district in 1997 and came back and became a science teacher at Blake High School. He opened Blake High School as a part of that school to be able to create its rich tradition. He has 15 years at Blake High School, in which 6 of those years he was a chemistry teacher, and then transitioned in 2003 as an assistant principal and then 2007 took on the lead as assistant principal of curriculum, building the master schedule and creating the best opportunities for children to unlock their full potential in and outside of the classrooms. In addition, in 2012, he was named principal at Jefferson High School, in which he moved that school from a C school to a B school. The C was close to a D, and then he transitioned the school close to an A school, when they also increased the graduation rates at 9%. In 2015, as a new superintendent transitioned in, he was named deputy superintendent, in which he led almost every facet within this organization. And then in 2020, and during that time, they moved the graduation rate 12%. Then I transitioned in 2020, and Mr. Ayers has taken on a number of positions, such as Chief of Innovation, also strategic planning. In the current role, he is a liaison to the board as a problem solver. He also is leading all of our charter schools in this district. He leads all of our athletics. He is one of the greatest and most important jobs that, as to demonstrate that he's a systems thinker, is that he's driving the strategic plan in the school district. Has done a remarkable job with all of our team members in that particular space. And then he drives all of our community partnership with Anne-Marie Courtney and that entire team. He has a family of career educators in Hillsborough County. His father was dedicated to this school district for 34 years. His mother was dedicated to the school district at 35 years, in which she was a principal, and we appreciate their dedication and commitment. He is focused on educational outcomes. He is, when I walk to schools, it's like walking with Sheikh Washington. Everyone knows Van Ayers. Everyone knows him. They respect him. They care about him. And right now, as a transition, I think he's the perfect fit to continue the momentum. He will also continue to lean on the highly qualified, skilled candidates that we have, potential candidates we have for this cabinet, because this cabinet has done some remarkable work in the last 3 years, and I appreciate each of them. At this time, I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Combs, Chair Combs.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. I need a motion and a second to approve item C-201. I have a motion by Member Rendon. I have a second by Member Hahn. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
The motion that is where you request it, you can make your own motion, but the chair is asking for the motion for his recommendation. So that's what I'm saying. I thought that was.
Thank you.
Okay. So if you could clear the board and ask again for a motion.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, I'll begin again. I need a motion and a second to approve item C-201. I have a motion by Member Hahn. I have a second by Member Washington, and now we will begin discussion. Member Rendon?
Now, I believe I can make a substitute motion on the current motion.
Yes, you can.
And my substitute motion would be that I believe that although this is not regarding, Superintendent, your recommendation, but I want to go back to the transparency of this process. I understand that, in lieu of the resignation of Mr. Davis, it is critically important that we provide a sense of security to not only the community, but to our staff in this process. But at the same time, I believe that there's a level of transparency that we need to have. And at this point in time, this collective group of 7 people have not come together to even identify exactly what we want to prioritize in a superintendent or interim superintendent. It's very important that as an interim superintendent, that they are going to have the abilities to make all decisions that any other superintendent would be making. And at this time, we've had 3 business days to not only collectively as a group to understand what those priorities are. We've not as a group or even individually understood what any other member of this entire organization could be eligible for this position. And so again, being the newest member, and, we make statements about, well, Dr. Hahn had the last process. I don't know what that process is. And so quite frankly, without having the collective history and knowledge of this board, to even ask those current cabinet members, would you be interested? Why would you be interested? What would you want to do? What is your history? I do appreciate Mr. Van Ayers' resume that we received just now. But prior to this very moment, I personally don't even know Mr. Van Ayers' complete history with this district. And so I'm now being asked to make a vote without knowing what that history is, what his professional criteria, what his professional background is. So there could be other members of the cabinet that have a similar, we don't know. So I'm making a subsequent motion that we actually vote on an interim superintendent at the next special called board meeting, or have a next special called board meeting on the 27th, and we take the remaining time of this board meeting to identify exactly what type of person that would be. You know, maybe come up with a question for each one of us to add that we give out to the cabinet, that they respond with resumes. But I think rushing the process does not do anything for the confidence in our community. I think letting them know that we're going to have a transparency of exactly what we're going to look like, look at an interim superintendent, have that discussion before we do that vote, actually have credentials for anybody that's up for that prior to the vote would be helpful. And so that's why I recommend that. So that's my motion on the table.
So the motion is to have the vote for the appointment occur on June 27th. That would need a second before the board can discuss it. Okay, if there's no second, the motion dies for lack of a second, and so you're back to the original motion. The recommendation of the superintendent is to appoint Van Ayers as superintendent. Interim superintendent, sorry.
Okay, thank you, and we'll continue the process. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Combs. You know, I guess I certainly understand your feelings around this, Member Rendon. You're new, and I understand that, and to the board, and you know, we do have to discuss process and procedure moving forward. But for me, you know, having some stability, and you know, I've had the benefit of working with Mr. Ayers before I was a school board member through our USF partnership. So, you know, I know that he would bring stability during a time when we're starting a new school year. I think there's, you know, decisions that need to be made around that, and somebody needs to be installed to be working with the superintendent in the next few weeks while we transition. I also think that he is beloved by principals and teachers. He is loved in the community as well. You know, I work with him closely at MacDill Air Force Base. He helped develop the MacDill Council for Educational Excellence, and we've won awards on that. He understands the need for transparency and community input. So not only will I support this today, but I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, and the amendment would be to extend the interim 12 months versus 6 months, because I have been through this process before. Because 6 months goes really fast, and you've got Christmas holidays in there, and you're getting school up and going, and I really valued last time around community input. And the one thing we've heard from our community, whether it's around boundaries or really a lot of the big issues this board has tackled, is you rushed it. And you rushed it because you didn't value our input. And, you know, look, maybe if the process moves faster than 12 months, but I'd rather give us a longer runway to really make the right decision than rush it through the opening of school, and then the holidays are upon us, and we're trying to coordinate everybody's calendars. It was very rushed last time. And so, you know, that's my feeling. That's just my lived experience, for better or for worse. I don't know if you find that valuable or not, but I think also the one thing that we've not really been able to move the needle on is our climate and culture. Mm-hmm. And week after week, or every 2 weeks during board meetings, teachers come, and, you know, it's great that we gave them a raise, but that is not going to fix the climate and culture. That's really, we've been struggling since COVID to overcome. And I do believe Mr. Van Ayers can bring that sense of, I think he can have an enormous positive impact on that, given his relationships with schools and the community. And I think that will go a long way for building trust, for retaining teachers, and probably for recruiting new teachers and retaining principals. So, you know, in thinking of not just student stability, which is incredibly important, I think having somebody who can start the new year and see it through, without having to, again, rush things, It will really allow us to have our interim, if he is chosen today, demonstrate his true potential to then be considered amongst other applicants. And that's my feeling. And so the motion is to amend the motion to be 12 months.
So that would require a second.
That would.
So that's the motion. So there's a motion on the floor to appoint Van Ayers as superintendent for 6 months. It's been an amendment for 12 months. So if is there a second? Ms. Perez apparently seconded it. So you should vote on, so then you need to vote on the amendment now. So if you're in favor of a 12-month interim contract, vote yes. If you're not in favor of a 12-month contract, vote no. It has nothing to do with his appointment. It's just the length of time. So yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, I think before that, I know Superintendent Davis wanted to say something,
Okay,
and I
that's
know the
fine.
board maybe wants to discuss the timeline. So if we can clear that board. Superintendent Davis, you wanted to say something?
Yes, ma'am, through the chair. That's an excellent recommendation because you've had 11 school districts go out for superintendents, and a number of candidates have been selected. Not that there's not high quality internal candidates if you really are trying to open up a field. And I agree, since COVID, we've had some cultural throughout the nation. So I think it's a great recommendation.
Thank you. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. Okay, so there were two motions I kind of want to talk about. First of all, to Member Rendon's point, I understand some of the questions being newer. I'm not as new, and I still haven't been able to necessarily build a relationship with Mr. Ayers, and I was also just kind of got this as well. Not that I don't have any confidence in him. I will say, though, I mean, there's been rumors about the superintendent leaving for a while, and people have given us feedback, whether we've asked for it or not. And I have gotten a lot of people who have reached out to me who know you, Mr. Ayers, and who have worked with you and value you. And I do think that for an interim superintendent, the feedback that I've gotten, even though I don't know you that well, has been good and positive, and I do trust our community and the feedback that I've gotten. I understand your concerns, but I do think that this is going to be a very long, lengthy process, and for me, I would rather put a lot of the energy into who we're going to choose long term than necessarily the interim, because I have gotten a lot of confidence, and people feel very confident and comfortable with that moving forward. So that's kind of my address to your motion. I do understand where you're coming from, though. And to Dr. Hahn, I understand what you're saying as well. I feel like the process is rushed. I do feel like where you and I agree a lot is that everything feels very rushed, and that is frustrating. But I'm also a commitment, don't love to commit to things. So for me, what I would prefer is to have a 6-month contract with an option to renew, where we come back after the 6th month and we talk about where we are in the process and see if we're close, or if we feel rushed, or if it's the holidays. And if we feel like we're not ready to make that decision, we can automatically renew it without a lot of doing the contract work or having to worry about it. It can be an easy renewal, similar to a lot of the contracts that we have right now. But, for me, a full year for someone who may or may not be long-term that I don't really know it's a bit much for me to commit to right away. So I would prefer that option, because I like to keep my options open. So that's kind of where I am as far as my thoughts are on this immediate process and the two motions. I have more thoughts, but I'll get back in the queue. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Gray?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Member Hahn. If we look at the definition of interim position, by definition, the interim has all the duties and responsibilities of a superintendent, and the suggested time frame is from 6 months to a year. And as experience that Dr. Member Hahn, and Member Perez, I also went through Aikens and saw that was an appointed position by 4 board members, and that didn't go over real well in the trust department. And then we went to the nationwide search, which in my mind definitely offered the transparency and gave us the variety, and really gave us an education. I think most of us who went through that process definitely learned about the good, the bad, and the what to look for in a superintendent. I'm not saying that the nationwide search is the very answer, because we have Florida School Board Association, who also contacted myself, and said they're able to do that as well, which we knew that last time. We intellectually were told they can do it. So the discussion next Tuesday is very important. But for the 1 year, I absolutely agree. I think the stability, and I know we talk about that loosely, and we need to define stability because thankfully, Superintendent Davis, you made this from COVID onto a hurricane, onto all the emergencies, you have kept this district stable. But there are outside forces that will kick us all in the butt as we go through 50 or more education bills, as we go through Synergy, the adaptation of teachers, as we go through 1,200 vacancies, as we go through culture wars, as we have a lot that this interim must be able to handle and keep the continuity in this district. So I'm not going to go into why I think you should be or why I think you should not be, because that's not the motion at hand. But I will say giving the year is a very, let's just say good recommendation, solid, given that no one should rush, and the community, they need to be a part of this discussion. It has to be that way because schools make the communities and the communities make our schools. So that is without saying, and that probably would suffice for another 3 or 4 months at least to engage. That's all my comments regarding this particular amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Perez?
I agree. Thank you, Member Hahn. You know, when we first went through this superintendent search for you, how many interviews did we go through? What was the process? Was it about 3 interviews that we went through?
There were at least 3, and there was a lot of community input, and the board did one-on-ones, and then there were public interviews as well.
Right. So it's a lengthy process, but it was a rush process at that point. It really was. But so in order for us to go through first, being able to eliminate, it was the process of elimination first, and then we went through those 3 interviews. But for me, Mr. Van Ayers, he has a major positive impact to this community, number one. He has a strong reach and a bond in this community. He's been to every school. He has a good relationship with all the leaders here in this community. And especially he knows what the community needs to be lifted. That's very important, especially here in Hillsborough County. And he has a historical understanding of this community. So for me, truly, this election, it's imperative that we provide time. We provide time to this community for their input. Also for the board members to find out the relationship of these candidates to the community, to the students, and to the families. Because that's imperative, to find out also what the community needs from these candidates. So thank you, Member Hahn, again, because that's going to be an important process, at least for this board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Rendon?
I absolutely agree with the 1-year process. I mean, that's exactly why I start off by submotion, because I don't want to rush the process. I think it's critically important that we are open, we are transparent, we take the time to get the community input, we take the time as a board to collectively come up with exactly what that person looks like, and we really work on creating that type of environment for our schools. So I do thank Member Hahn because that is exactly what I believe we need to do. The other thing I like about the 1-year process is we're not going to disrupt students, teachers, and our school year. I think that's very important, that at 6 months, we're coming at the end of the first semester, and that's critical not to do that and to disrupt the what-ifs happening for semester number 2. And so at this point in time, I highly, I agree that I think a 1-year commitment to giving that stability is very important. The transparency of not rushing the process. Again, it's 3 days, so I 100% agree with that 1-year commitment.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Combs. So, I want to give you some insight into my thought process around how I got to the 12 months. In all fairness, yes, certainly the climate and culture was a big thing, and I do think it's going to take more than 6 months to turn that around and give some stability. But, and just looking at the fall and the summer, we have summer right now. We're planning for, summer school and then opening schools. We can certainly start having conversations around timeline over the summer. And then moving into the fall, it's opening schools. And I see us creating a calendar as well for the community, so they know like when the community meetings are, where they are. We can have multiple ones and in multiple formats. And then after that, the communication plan is created on how we're going to communicate this out into the community. And I think that needs a lot of board input, because we've been through this a couple times now, and we've kind of identified some gaps. And then around October, we can start meeting with the community, getting their feedback to use that as we draft the job description. And then the holidays come, and then after that, we can really start, having more follow-up community meetings, but also setting up those meetings and starting now to get resumes and go through the process of meeting with folks who apply for the job. So, and that will take us through the spring. And then we may appoint, somebody sooner than a year's out, because you would, if it's not Mr. Van Ayers, you'd want him to have a few months to help them transition in. So that's pretty normal. So there might be a little overlap toward the end, and that's healthy for stabilizing everything and continuity. So that was my thought process as I'm, kind of running through it in my head. And, let's face it, from November to after January 1st, that would be it's going to be very difficult to, even when we were doing the boundaries, families were like, my gosh, we're going into the holidays and now you want to meet with, it's hectic time for people. So I'm just trying to think of a way that can be the most transparent, loop as many people in the very beginning in those planning stages. So when we're ready to hit the ground running and actually take applications and meet with people, we've heard from constituents, we've heard from business leaders, we've heard from different organizations that we work with, and we've gotten all that input to now inform, okay, what type of person do we want to look for? Maybe Van fits the bill, maybe it's somebody else internally, maybe it's outside, I don't know. Those are all variables that are not determined yet, but I just, again, want to make sure that this is not rushed. That is the feedback we've continually gotten, and we want to work on renewing and rebuilding trust, and making sure we retain the trust that we have. And that's that's just my thought process on how I got to 12 months. And I think that's important. It's just not a number I pulled out of the air, that I have been really thinking about this and reflecting on my experience the last time we did this. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn. And I have to say, as not a new board member, but new to this process, I really have to look at, I'm very fortunate to have Member Perez, Member Hahn, and Member Gray already have been through this experience. I think that really says a lot. I think it will make it much easier, but I also think you are providing us insight that we do need a longer runway, because I have not been through that experience. But I can say that this district needs consistency and stability. We know that Van Ayers worked side by side with our former superintendent, Jeff Eakins, and in the district office, side by side, who has been in the superintendent's office for the last few years is Superintendent Davis, Terry Connor, and Van Ayers. So I really need someone who's going to really know the day-to-day operations. And as a chair, I've worked very closely with Van Ayers, and I have complete trust in him, and I know that he will be a wonderful interim. I also have taken the time to talk to almost every cabinet member and really asking them, because we do have such talented people in our cabinet, and we do have people in our cabinet who could also be the interim superintendents. I asked them, I tried to call each one of them and ask them how they felt about, Van. And they really, I feel so fortunate. We have such an amazing, strong cabinet, and they all are uniting together to work together. And I think this type of stability is only going to create a better climate and culture, going to create better academic gains from students and make sure that our entire district and community knows that we are going to be fine and that we will continue to do well. So I think that's a great idea, Member Hahn, and I also would support Mr. Ayers. Member Washington?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I've been knowing Van for a long time. I mean, a long time. And since I've been knowing Van, he's always done a great job, worked hard, been through the ranks. It's something going through the ranks. He's been through the ranks. He's been at every position. He was there in 2015. He's been here for a long period of time. It's something I never went through before, and I was in it for 42 years, and I've hired hundreds of people. But I've never been through this process before. It's something different. So I would like to see him give him a year so we can go through the process, because my concern is with the community. I want the community to have input. We don't want people to just go, we select somebody and we go. I want the community to help give input on this selection. I think it's important. So I think a year is enough time so we can get through, start, and make sure we get the right person and don't rush it, because it's so important. This is the most important position we'll ever hire a person in. The most important position. Because this person is over the whole school district of Hillsborough County. 7th largest school district in America. So when we select somebody, we have to put a person in there that's going to be able to work with people, get the job done, have equity with everybody, with every school, and have the quality to do the job. So, Superintendent, I agree.
Thank you, Member Washington. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. Well, I still would like to ask some questions about this. I guess this would go to you, Mr. Porter. I know that the contract's not ready today, and I seem to be the only one who's concerned about a 12-month contract. But I guess my question would be, would it be similar to the superintendents with a 30-day out, even if we approve a 12-year one, where if we did move the process along or someone came along and we wanted that flexibility, we weren't bound to the 12 years, we still had the same kind of, or the 12 months. 12 months, not 12 years, that we would still have the kind
Take
of
my resignation
ability
back.
to
Take my back.
to go in that direction is
Yeah,
really my question.
let me
on
say
that.
very specifically, I would never bring a contract for you for approval without the ability to terminate the relationship as painlessly as the law allows. And so that's in Mr. Davis's contract, and I anticipate it being in Mr. Ayers' contract if you vote to appoint him today.
I mean, I just think with the political environment and the way things are, you can never know, and 12 years is a long time from now. So I just, again, I like 12 months. 12 months. 12 months.
Back in. Sorry, Van.
So other than that, what I would like to say is that I appreciate that we're already having conversations where, as a board, what we really seem to come together and agree on no matter what is that we want to take our time with this process, that we value transparency, that we value community input, and I want to use this as an opportunity to everyone who's watching or looking to, say you don't have to necessarily come to just a meeting or whatnot. Please let us know, what you value. And I'm glad that as a board, that we can at least agree on that going forward, that we want to make sure that we include the community and we want to be transparent and we want to take our time. So I just want to clarify that about the contract. Thank you. 12 months.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Gray?
Yeah, since everyone else seems to be saying yes to the recommendation, let's just be clear that I'm saying yes, but I'll say why. But I did want to point out the rationale behind the year or 8 months to a year. One of the hiccups you have is there's a season for superintendency. When you start getting and looking for a superintendent in the summer, August, September, you got to look at it through the lens of a future superintendent. In other words, many of them already started the school year, planned the school year, and their propensity to want to become a superintendent, especially if they already are one or a deputy superintendent, is very low. So the amount of applications that you would gain or get will be very slim during the months of August, September, October, simply because of the pragmatic reality that, and plus there is the Open Record Act. If any of you do go for a superintendent, your board would see it, your supervisor would see it, it's open record, it could be published, so then you're damaged in a way for going out and looking. So there's no, I mean, the amount of time to go for a superintendent, there's good time and there's not good time. And waiting out the longer amount of months is the highly recommended. I also want to say that, you know, when we hit Tuesday of next week, nationwide search it's very good. It gives you an array of many choices. Certainly, we went through Colorado, we went through different states, Texas, but we also can consider the Florida School Board Association. I just want to throw that out there as a mention. Also, Van Ayers. You know, when we look at your qualifications, not that everyone reads the strategic plan every day, but basically it runs the whole entire district. It runs the gamut of how our employees do, what they're doing, what curriculum we're teaching, how kids, all of the procedures and all of the policy are included. Van put that strategic plan largely together. So when anyone says, well, what does Van know, or his experience is 33 years, or which is quite, you know, indelible in itself, be aware that he has been with this district and knows the inside and outside through a written document signed by every one of these board members. So I also wanted to say that. And also, Superintendent Davis, there is an advantage when we have the mature, experienced superintendent in the seat. We can't help but say thank you for giving everything you got to help the interim become successful. Because when he is successful, when you're successful, our kids in our schools and our staff and our teachers become successful, and our communities become more stable and more trustworthy. And Van, you have stood the test of time. We can go on and on about all the years. I've known you for a long time, and actually you're a faster runner than I too, which I could put you as a negative. But at any rate, you your outreach. But I am going to caution you, as well as anyone else that's in this room. You're facing a lot of forces that outside are coming inside, right in your office. And, you know, confrontation is part of your job, unfortunately. And I just want, and I'm hoping that the wonderful staff that we have will also support you to be successful. And it sounds like the board is going to be right behind you every step of the way. So at any rate, I will say that I also say yes to the recommendation. And thank you, Superintendent Davis, and I'm sure Jim Porter, Attorney Porter, will share the additional length of time, right, that's coming, that Superintendent Davis will be also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Member Gray. Mr. Porter, if you want to clarify the motion that's on the floor.
The only thing you're voting for now is Dr. Hahn's amendment to, if the appointment happens subsequently, it will be for a year. So if you're in favor of an interim superintendent for a year, vote yes. If you're not in favor of that, vote no, and then you'll get back to the main motion. So this is, if you're in favor of 12 months for an interim superintendent, vote yes. If you're not, vote no.
Board members, please vote when your lights appear. Okay, well, let's do it one more time. Board members, please vote. And that passes with 6 yeses and Member Vaughn voting no.
So the main motion on the floor now is to appoint Van Ayers as interim superintendent for 1 year beginning July 15th.
Okay. Board members, please vote when your lights appear.
You can further discuss it if you want.
Okay, well, let's clear the board, and please, board members, if you'd like to discuss, if you'd like to discuss, please get back into the queue, and then we'll call on you. Anybody? Okay. Okay, Member Rendon?
Sorry. But I didn't realize the discussion was, we thought we were at 12 months. So that's why I wanted to, and I want to make it very clear that I've had many conversations with Van over the last couple of days. And my motion to postpone it for a week had nothing to do with the recommendation of the superintendent or Van Ayers themselves. At the end of the day, I wanted the transparency of the process. I want to make sure that we had vetted every single member of the cabinet to make sure that that was exactly where we as a board could make a good recommendation for an interim. And Van and I have had that discussion that no matter what the decision is today, that collectively we're going to work together to be the better good of this district. And we believe in that. And so I think it's critically important to make that statement. I don't want anyone to feel that my motion to postpone a week had anything to do with superintendent's recommendation for this position. It had to do with the transparency and the quickness of voting in an interim board before we as a board had any discussion on any other options on the table. And I think that's important to know, and it's important for me to make sure publicly that I said why it was. I do believe Van has worked very hard in this district. I do believe climate and culture is critical right now. Working with someone within the district for the interim superintendent, and I'm very pleased that we as a board said for a year. I think it's critically important that we have some moments where we can just say, okay, this year we're going to work through this. And it's important that we're not going to go through a middle of a year again. The last 3 years have been very uncertain, whether it's the beginning of a semester or the next semester. And so to have a year of continuity, I think is critically important for the students, for the staff, for the parents. And so I'm thankful that this board voted on that direction. But again, I want to make it very clear that it had nothing to do with Mr. Van Ayers themselves. At the end of the day, it's the transparency of the process. And I think that is what we need to keep in mind as we move forward, the transparency of the process for the entire public, for the entire staff, that we know that we're making a good decision based upon the process. And so thank you for allowing me to speak, because I had not done that in the original motion.
Okay, thank you, Member Rendon. Board members, anybody else? Okay. Please vote when your lights appear. And it passes unanimously. We will now close the meeting, and we will take a 10-minute or 15 minutes before we will start the board meeting a little bit late today, and I apologize for any inconvenience for anyone. So this special call board meeting is adjourned.